good boy. He loves his mama. He loves Jesus and his country too. He's a good boy. Working class white male loves violence and his dumb girlfriend too.
And that's enough to make me...
You are listening to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. On this episode, we are discussing White, Proud, and Stupid, track 18 from 1998's Where Quantity is Job 1 compilation.
Steve, I think this is the last song from this particular collection that we have never made an episode about. So I think this is our actual last episode for the Where Quantity is Job Number 1 compilation. Isn't that crazy?
Is it extra fitting that we saved maybe the best song from that album as the last song from it?
Dude, it's so good. I love this song. I'm just going to say off the bat that this song is an absolute jam for me. I've always loved it. I've loved it since the first time I ever heard it because I was a huge Tom Petty fan in the mid 90s because it's like my uncle had all of Tom Petty's albums. And so when this song eluded Tom Petty and I heard it for the first time, I was like immediately like, this is my favorite song on this album.
It's a certified banger.
It's so great. Okay. And so I'm excited about this, but it's our last one. Do you have off the top of your head, what are some of your other favorite songs on this album? Because sometimes we do like a formalized top 5 or whatever from a record, and this isn't really a real record, so we don't have to be as formal. But I am curious if you have any other favorites off the top of your head from this particular collection.
I'm just bringing it up here so I can look at the track listing and remind myself what we're working with here.
I feel like I could do a top 5 off the top of my head, like pretty easily.
Yeah, okay. I'd say obviously this song. I would say, Okay Everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Very personal to where you grew up as well.
Yeah. And then I like the alternate. I like the alternate version of Refusing to Be a Man.
Mm-hmm. Super good.
And probably since it wasn't originally one of my favorites, but since we did the episode on it, Stand Up and Be Counted. Just because of like the lore behind it and everything. I just love that whole.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna go with White, Proud, and Stupid being my favorite from the entire record. I'm going to go with Okay Everywhere as my second favorite. I'm going to go with True, the Concrete Blonde cover, being my third favorite. I'm going to go with Firestorm, My Ass, as number 4 for the alternative version of Nailing Descartes to the Wall. And then I'm going to go with Venom, Stand Up and Be Counted, as my 5th favorite song on this album. So I love that we overlapped a little bit on Venom because that was like, I honestly think that Venom episode, Steve, is when you and I became like joined souls in podcasting.
I agree too. I think that was one of the most fun I've ever. That was like the first episode that we did where I was like, oh man, that was wild.
We nailed it. And I remember recording it even. Like a lot of times I can't really remember the recording process, but that night, Patrina was on her way to my house right as we were finishing up, and she pulled into the driveway right as we were like signing off. And it was just this moment where she got home to hang out with me and you and I were hanging out. So she walks in and I'm in a great mood because we had just had this amazingly hilarious and unhinged conversation about Venom and propaganda and electronic drums recording in the attic of one of their old punk houses. What a good time. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's having a good time and talking about music and hanging out and just loving life. So I appreciate that that we get to bring in this album for a landing with White, Proud, and Stupid. I can't believe I've never made an episode about this song before. It's been like almost 5 years.
I'm jazzed that we get to make this episode together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so any fun news lately? There's not a lot of fun in the world. The world is crazy bananas, being run by an actual psychopath. So the world is being a little weird right now. Not a lot of great news. Is there anything positive going on that we can chat about?
So there's one thing that I turned you on to earlier. I think it was last week, and I just want to discuss it maybe on the show.
Ooh,
So,
I know where
do,
you're
do you know
going
what
with
I'm
this.
talking about?
Oh, I know, baby. Bring it on,
So, we're talking about the musical stylings of David Hasselhoff.
bro. Tell me about your fandom from David Hasselhoff.
So, David Hasselhoff is one of those growing up in the 80s, he was just everywhere. You know,
Mm-hmm.
your Knight Rider, your Baywatch, your everything. And there's no funnier TV show than Baywatch. Like the
Mm-hmm.
entire concept of the show is just pure comedy, start to finish. That being said, the Baywatch theme song, absolute banger. My
Mm-hmm.
old band, we used to use the Baywatch theme song as our walkout music. But if the one, so David Hasselhoff was very popular in Germany for his
Mm-hmm.
music.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I need to look up some David Hasselhoff music. So that led me down. This was years ago. Anyway, I went down this rabbit hole of David Hasselhoff music, and I've discovered that he covers a Lords of the New Church song.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if anyone out there, if everyone here knows who Lords of the New Church is. Anyone, look them up. They also kind of go by later went by the Lords. Um, they're a UK punk band in the 80s. Um, who are awesome. But he covers one of their songs, and which is wild because the song is like a. How would you describe the lyrical content of the song?
I mean, I can't remember the lyrics. I haven't read the lyrics, but it is an absolutely awesome song. We're talking about "Open Your Eyes," right?
Yeah, so it's about
Open
like
your eyes.
mass media and like TV poisoning your brains and like all of like it's a super like society critical song about society. And Hasselhoff, who made his living literally being on TV and getting famous, covered this song. And
It opens the record.
his version of the song is amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah, he's so good. James Williamson is on the song as well, which people may know who James Williamson is too. So it's an awesome banger, dude. And I'm so grateful to you. And oh, I should just say that, James Williamson from the Stooges, from Raw
Yeah.
Power and the Stooges. So really, really good stuff. I was loving it.
It's one of those things that you would never expect him to cover a song like that. And then for it to also be so
Rock.
rockin'.
It's so good, and I love it when when you look up this record. The record is called "Open Your Eyes," so he named the record after this song. And it's classified as adult contemporary on Apple Music, which I found so funny. But it's got a lot of '80s vibe to it, man. It's just
It's like
really
that
super
80s new
catchy.
wave punk. Like
Yeah,
it's
very Depeche Mode-y, punky. So it's like if Depeche Mode became a punk band, essentially. You know.
yeah, it's
Do you have it on vinyl? Are you
I do.
busting out "Open Your Eyes" by David Hasselhoff on vinyl right now while I am filling the space? Oh my God. You're pulling something out of the shelf over there. What you got for me? Show me some
I
records.
don't remember the track listing here.
Oh my God. What do you got?
Okay. So it's not the Hasselhoff, but this is the
Oh,
original recording of it, the Lords of the New Church recording. It's the first track on side 2 of this record, you can see.
dude, that is awesome.
Yeah, I've got
Very
I've
cool.
got I've got multiple Lords records here.
Dude, that's great. I'm gonna have to dig into that a little bit. That's a band that I have completely missed in my life.
Yeah. Anyways, awesome song. Please go check out David Hasselhoff's cover of the Lords of the New Church. Open your eyes.
Super good. Yeah, we'll switch over and we'll chat about the song here for a little bit. So we've got White, Proud, and Stupid, track 18, where Quantity's job 1. This song is about racists and how they're dumb. And can I just say, I've been thinking a lot about this. Racists are the biggest dweebs on planet Earth. Can we just get that out of the way?
Oh, absolutely.
choosing to be a racist is just like so mind-bogglingly boring. It bores the living crap out of me to think about racists going through um, their daily lives. Um, so racists out there listening, you are a dweeb, a big time dweeb. And you you know,
What do you
it
think?
just it's
What do you think
boring.
the percentage of racists that listen to this show is?
I mean, who knows, but we'll see if the white, proud and stupid picks up any
Yeah,
algorithms
I
for
wonder
hate
what
groups.
how much of our demographic is the white, proud, and stupid demographic. I imagine it's pretty low because they would have been irate with us ages ago.
Oh,
But
I know. Well, it's interesting too because if some ding dong out there puts white pride or white supremacy or whatever into their podcast app, and wouldn't that be funny if we pop up and we're like, "Hey, dweeb," you know what I mean? So
I mean,
we'll,
good.
we'll
I
see.
hope I hope a racist listens to this and then feels shame.
Oh, what dweebs.
Yeah.
But what was really funny is Sulin Hago from Propaganda and I did an episode ages ago about the song Homophobes, or not Homophobes, The Only Good Fascist is a Very Dead Fascist from Less Talk More Rock. And on that episode, Keith and I went through a detailed list where we described the history and involvement of many modern white supremacist groups. So if anybody out there is looking for a very detailed and nuanced analysis of, groups like the Hammerskins and all that stuff, you can go back and you can listen to the Dead Fascist episode because I'm not re-explaining all of that. But it's there. It's on the podcast, and you can go find it, and you can learn about all the terrible people that I researched in quite a lot of detail on that episode. It's like a minute long
I'm,
song, and I think that episode's like 3 hours long.
I'm wondering why people haven't made the connection between the Hammerskins and the Republicans that are currently in office.
I mean, yeah. Okay, so Steve, we do have a cover on this episode. I put out a call ages ago for somebody to do this one, and I got a bunch of responses in Instagram DMs where it's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that," and then no one did, which stinks because I was really looking forward to featuring some. So I did my little backup plan, and I went on YouTube, and 3 years ago, a YouTube user named triplesixdevilshit,
Yes.
yeah, did a cover from after the Kyle Rittenhouse murder of two people in Kenosha, Wisconsin, after the police killing of Jacob Blake. And everybody remembers Kyle Rittenhouse, that 17-year-old dude who was just walking around the streets, with a gun, shooting people, and then he claimed self-defense, even though he drove there from Illinois. And then he got off. He didn't get convicted. So Triple Six Devil Shit did a cover dedicated to Kyle Rittenhouse. So should we go ahead and hear it?
I would love to hear it.
All right, let's hear it.
Yeah, this one's for you, Kyle. Kyle Rittenhouse, American hero. He's a good boy. He loves his mama. He loves Jesus and his country too. He's a good boy. Working class white male, loves violence and killing protesters too. And that's enough to make me... That's enough to make me sick. I am white, proud, and stupid. I am much smarter than you, kid. You don't know what's right. You're black instead of white, and you've gotta be like me if you wanna be free. In my world, in my world, whoa, the first generation without racial segregation. Imagine the look on will never be white, proud, and stupid. I am no smarter than you kid, 'cause we both know what's right. It's never black or white, and you don't have to be like me. You're always free in our world. In our world. Whoa, the first generation without racial segregation. Imagine the look on a puppet's face as she turns in her grave.
Okay, pretty sweet cover, huh?
It it got me thinking. I'm like, again, tangent. When people come up with their YouTube usernames, like what's the process that comes through like your head that makes you be like, okay, I love the devil, so obviously 666. So, but that's taken, so 666 isn't. But then 666 devil's taken, so I'm like, shit. 666 devil shit. Like, how
Yeah.
does that like happen?
Yeah, it's a wonderful thought process, and I would imagine that it's pretty similar to what you just went through, but good cover. Really good.
Yeah.
I like it. And Triple Six Devil Shit has some video on YouTube of their band. So I was rocking out a little bit to their band. So you can go to that YouTube channel and see some punk rock videos, including this cover. If you wanted to see the video, it's available on YouTube. But yeah, I was relieved that one cover existed in all of YouTube for White, Proud, and Stupid by Propagandy. So what a nice little Easter egg to discover years down the road after I failed in getting a cover made for the podcast. So I was very relieved.
It would have been great if Tom Petty was still alive and we could have got Tom Petty to do a cover of White Proud Stupid. That would have been
Dude,
awesome.
I bet he would do it too. You know what I
He,
mean? Like
yeah,
Tom Petty
what
was,
else does he have to do?
dude, he was that kind of guy, man, where people were always using his stuff for political rallies, and he was constantly dealing with people who suck and, using his stuff for rallies. So I would have been all over inviting Tom Petty to do a cover of this song via his management. And, I think I had a 1% chance of succeeding if Tom
Hey,
Petty was still with us.
there's a chance. Do you have, before we get into more deep, do you have a favorite Tom Petty musical performance?
I mean, for me, um, You Don't Know How It Feels from his solo record in 94 is super important to me because of that being intimately linked with the era in which I became a quote unquote serious fan of music. That video was playing the summer of 93 or 94 on VH1 and MTV nonstop. And so those are my earliest memories, honestly, of Tom Petty is that solo record. Um, yeah, so that's my answer for now.
Oh, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
Uh, Mine is it's very unconventional, but it's on the American recordings 2 or 3, I believe, the Johnny Cash American recordings with Rick Rubin albums. So I think it's on either 2 or 3. He does a cover. Johnny Cash does a cover of "Solitary Man" of Neil Diamond's "Solitary Man," and Tom
Uh-huh.
Petty just happened to be around the studio that day, and Tom Petty sings that song with Johnny Cash on that record, and it is the most hauntingly like alarming song. Like it
Really?
gives me chills into my bones of the sadness that that song exudes.
Okay, I just looked at Johnny Cash Volume 2, and then I just looked at Volume 4.
Or what I can't remember what number is. I have the box set over here, so I don't know which. I can't remember exactly which album it's on.
Ooh, American 3, Solitary
3.
Man. Here it
Okay,
is. Yeah,
it
that's the
is.
name of the record, and it's track 2. So Tom Petty's on that song?
Yeah,
Dude. Okay.
it's phenomenal.
Well, I just went to the Johnny Cash Museum in Nashville when I was down there a few weeks ago. So I'm going to be all over checking that out. So that's your favorite Tom Petty?
That is, yeah, I have a feeling you're gonna listen to it and you're gonna be like, holy crap, that is so haunting.
Man, there's a massive exhibit in that Cash Museum for those American recordings years as well. With really, really cool little section because like a bunch of the stuff from the Hurt music video is
Oh
in the
yeah.
room, and there's really no like barricade or protectiveness of anything. Like the
Is the piano
chair,
there?
there are several pianos in the
Is I'm
museum.
wondering if the piano from the Hurt recording, how it's just slightly out of tune, and when he's hitting that note on the piano, it's just like that dissonance ringing in your ear. Oh my God.
Yeah, really, really cool. Well, nice. I love that. Okay, so
You're black instead of white, and you gotta feel like me if you wanna be free. In my world, in my world, you can't believe what you say. Do you really think that way? Every time you talk each other, human race, limb from limb, limb from limb. The first generation without racial segregation. Imagine the look on a brother's
let's get
face
back
as
to
they
the task at hand here. Steve, did you look up any stuff about White, Proud, and Stupid or, far right musical movements or anything like that in the lead up to this? Because I was finding some stuff.
So I did a bit of looking, and I want to just throw back to a specific time in my life in which um I was going to shows. I lived in a different city. I'm not going to say which city because I don't want to out the scene or I don't want to out any people, but I lived in a different city. And I remember going to a show. I can't remember specifically what show it was. It may have been a show that I played and I don't remember, but I
Hmm.
remember someone at the show wearing a t-shirt from a band that we will not discuss today.
Mm,
And everyone getting really up in arms that they were wearing that t-shirt, and his reason being, oh, it was before they were Nazis.
I see.
And um it turned into a huge thing, and this gentleman was thrown out of the show for wearing that t-shirt because obviously like it was a punk or hardcore show, like it's, and I'm pretty sure you can guess which artist it is, and I will not say their name because they do not deserve to be spoken. But um, that was kind of like my first like real kind of interaction with people that were fans of that music. For
Right.
example, like like I had seen like early, like I mean early for me, like like 97 agnostic front shows in which were filled with skinheads. But,
Hmm.
there's a lot of there's a lot of different classes of skinheads. Is
Yeah.
which originally I did not know that, but then I wound up learning that.
Yeah. When I was in college, I worked at a music venue in Missouri, kind of in the middle of the state, between Kansas City and St. Louis. And there's one show, and I believe it was either a Reverend Horton Heat show or a Hank Williams III show. I can't remember exactly what it was. It might have actually been Super Joint Ritual
Yeah,
as well.
if there was racism involved, it was definitely Hank 3 was there.
Yeah, so I don't know anything about Hank Three's ideological beliefs personally, but I
He's
feel
in a
like it
band with
was.
Phil Anselmo, so
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was a Hank 3 show, but people came to the door and they had actual swastikas tattooed like on their face, like on the side of their face. And my boss handled the situation very well because I was 20, 21, you know what I mean, working the door at this concert, just taking tickets and like checking people's IDs. Um, and it was kind of a nerve-wracking situation because I really had no idea what to do, but they were not allowed into the show. They were given their money back and they didn't like put up a fight or anything like that, and they did leave. But it was an eye-opening moment to think about the fact that when you live in a community, in a town, anything can be going on behind any front door across that entire town that's like a world that you have never experienced. So that's like my biggest exposure to something like that because I hit the scene a little bit later. And I think that when I was going to tons of shows starting 98, 99, 2000, I think it was maybe a little different. I'm sure it was around me, but like I didn't pick up on anything, and I don't really have any specific memories other than that one show, that Hank 3 show in Missouri, in like probably 2005 or so. But yeah,
What's interesting about that story is that so you said they left,
yeah,
they accepted their refund and they left. If you replay that exact scene in 2025, I don't think they leave without making a scene.
yeah,
And
it's a little
that's
more
like
emboldened.
the way the shift has done in terms of like racism being something that kind of happened in the background of stuff. Now it's people are just overtly proud of being racist, openly racist. It's
Yeah,
wild how to see that, in the span of 20 years, see that shift.
yeah. So I was looking up some research about far right music scenes and stuff like that, and I came across a couple of scholars who specialize in that kind of stuff. I was listening to an interview this morning from a sociologist named Dr. Pete Simi, who the last name is Simi Simi, who's a professor at Chapman University, and he researches and writes about white supremacy, undoing white supremacist beliefs, the attractions of how people find white supremacist groups, how it was different before and after the invention of the internet, like how much more difficult it would be to seek out white supremacist and white power groups, compared to the way that you can just get right in those groups on the internet now. It's so much more accessible now. Um, and he also writes about how people like undo white supremacist beliefs. And I listened to a great episode of an interview he did on a podcast called Psychcast. And the episode is from March 10th, 2021. And the title of it was Intervening in the Lives of People Who Embrace White Supremacy. And it was super interesting because he said how white supremacist involvement is fixable and reversible because so many of the promises that people make to people who approach white supremacist groups, such as like fellowship and brotherhood and community, they really latch on to lonely people's visions of what they feel like they're missing in life and draw them in like that. But then once people immerse themselves into white supremacist groups, they find tons of, hypocritical behaviors, where they, aren't as consistent. Like there's a lot of infighting, a lot of power grabs, a lot of inconsistency in beliefs. So Peter Simi's work was really interesting to me because he was talking about how people wind up joining the factors in their personality and identity that cause them to join, and then also what they notice once they get inside that causes them to be able to be deprogrammed, which I found a really fascinating conversation. And he also has some books and stuff too. So anybody out there interested could go check that out.
So,
But yeah, that was cool.
quick question: in
Hmm.
your research that you did, because obviously with the internet being the makes the entry point into white supremacist groups easier.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see, maybe we're too early on for it to be properly studied, but the gateway into white supremacist groups by made facilitated by uh, groups online that are pushing toxic masculinity like ideals, like the people that are out there protecting the manosphere and stuff, like all of
Right.
these groups out there which essentially prey on young boys aged 12 to 15 with their toxic masculinity BS garbage, is
Oh yeah.
literally a gateway to all of this stuff, and it's all connected. But like overtly, like the open white supremacist groups are still like, other than the obvious Republicans thing here, it's not exactly super easy to find, but like the man and like they're not advertising on social media and stuff versus
Hmm.
the manosphere groups and everything are advertising to young boys on social media, and that's how they're getting in. So like I would really
Yeah.
love to see how that I want to see studies on that pathway.
Yeah, well, and I've heard, like someone like Tucker Carlson or whatever being described as like an absolute entry point into stuff like this, and how important he was being described as from groups like the Richard Spencer groups and stuff like that were popular a couple of years ago during the first Trump administration, during like the Charlottesville riot and stuff like that, where that protester was run over by a car. And there were interviews during that time. It's like, okay, so like Tucker is like super important. So there's a lot of stuff out there about that kind of stuff, which is definitely worthwhile
Did
to look into.
is this fun, this another tangent? Surprising.
All good.
Do you remember? Do you remember that Chappelle Show skit, the black white supremacist skit?
Oh, absolutely.
And I just like talking about this. That skit really comes to mind with the current climate that's happening down where you are, in which you have people, marginalized people, being racist towards other marginalized people.
Okay, so that's a super important point. You may have heard of there's an anti-racist author named Tim Wise. I've seen Tim Wise speak a couple of times, and I've read a couple of his books several years ago at this point. But in one of his books, he makes the really important distinction between the ways that powerful white people pit poor white people against other poor demographics. Because since the country is so predicated upon the power of white men in the past few centuries, what constantly is the message that gets across from the powerful white group to the non powerful white group is they send the message that the other poor group is coming to take what they've got, right? So they pit the poor groups against each other from on high. And then what the poor groups fail to do is unite in order to unite as a force that could counterbalance some of the offsetted power that the ultra rich groups actually have. So Tim Wise speaks far more eloquently about that than I do, but he talks about the fact that like in New Orleans you have a poor white community basically like in the next ward over from a poor black community, and how the powerful people in society will pit that poor white group against that poor black group one ward over in New Orleans, especially in the aftermath of things like Hurricane Katrina, so that the white poor group is, suspicious of the poor black group instead of being suspicious of the powerful white group that is doing things like abolishing the public school system in New Orleans after the hurricane, and fully going disaster capitalist mode in the wake of disasters, while the poor groups eyeball each other instead of the people at the very top who are actually plundering society's infrastructure and institutions.
It's funny because I had in 20, I think it was 2018, maybe 2019. I can't remember. 2019. I was doing a lot of traveling for work, and my first real experience with that kind of thing was on a trip I had to go right after a bunch of tornadoes touched down in Dayton, Ohio. They had like 15 or whatever tornadoes. A lot of the city was destroyed. So I had to
Hmm.
travel there for work to do stuff. And in my touring the city, um, the people that I was working with people from like the Metro Park system in Ohio, and they were explaining that how Dayton is still a segregated city.
Hmm.
And being from where I am, that was super weird to me. And then actually going there and experiencing it, I was like, this is so messed up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely is. And I grew up in a completely segregated city as well. St. Louis, I mean, is very, very segregated. And I was actually having an interesting conversation about my mom with this recently, where we were talking about some of the, the ways that generational wealth is built in the United States, and so much of it is through the accumulation of property that you can pass down from generation to generation. Because if someone dies in a family and they leave a piece of property like a home or land to one of their heirs, that person then becomes exponentially wealthier. And when so much of the society is based upon things like, blockbusting, real estate redlining, the racially exclusive FHA loans and VA loans that help create the American suburbia that so many of us grew up in.
Like, let's just talk about how horrific REITs are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about how absolutely massive it all is. But I went back and I found a little bit more about Pete Simi, and so if anybody's curious about Pete Simi's work, that sociologist I mentioned, he has a book called American Swastika: Inside the White Power Movement's Hidden Spaces of Hate. And he writes about things like that guy who shot people at the Sikh Gurdwara several years ago in Wisconsin. And it's a really cool looking book that I'm definitely considering checking out a little bit more in the future. Um, and I also found some stuff. There's a professor named Ben Teitelbaum. His last name is Teitelbaum, Teitelbaum. And he has a really cool article that I read called The Study of Far Right Music, which was really neat. I really enjoyed reading that. And then I found a couple of articles from punk rock journalism, quote unquote, from Punk News. There is a review from the 90s about where Quantity is Job One. And the review quotes, it says, White, Proud, and Stupid is an attack to Nazi bands. And then it quotes the song where it mentions the bands that we don't really feel like getting into at this time on this episode. There's also a review on a website called Keep Track of the Time, which mentions White, Proud, and Stupid a little bit in that article. So there is a little bit of attention in the propaganda world about some attention on this song, which was kind of cool to see. I wasn't sure I was actually going to find anything, but Chris has mentioned this song somewhat recently on his Patreon. He did an episode about Mike Braumeister, the second bass player who ever played in Propaganda, and he included some rehearsal recordings in the episode featuring Mike on bass. And during the recording in 1991, Propaganda plays this song on the Patreon episode from an old cassette that Chris dug up while they were rehearsing for a show.
Let's get back to the tape. Oh, here's White, Proud, and Stupid. This should have been on How to Clean Everything. Let's give it a quick listen. So this
And
tape,
so you can hear them playing this song as early as 91 on that recording, which is pretty cool. So those are a few of the other things that I found that people can go and check out.
It's I haven't heard that, so I'm excited to go and hear that.
Yeah. All right, do you want to, should we talk a little bit about the music? What are you enjoying about this tune?
I mean, what am I not enjoying about this tune? Like, this
Yeah.
tune rips. Like, this is one of my favorite Chris Hanna vocal performances.
He would probably despise you saying that.
I know, because he's over singing every single word and really emphasizing anything, but I understand why he hates it. But for this song in particular, it works.
Mm-hmm.
It may not work for certain other songs, and that's why he doesn't like it. But for this song to come, like, because when he has that over over enunciation, really sharp vocal style. With this song, like I feel like it gives the words more pop and more like oomph. And I think a topic such as this, it needs to sound angry and it needs to pop so it works.
Yeah, the my favorite specific line is he loves Jesus.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Every time he does it, I laugh. The guitar solo, love the guitar solo in this one. I mean, it is crazy and it's got some whammy in there a little bit. I loved it.
Yeah, there's nothing to not love about this song.
And so we'll talk about the lyrics here in a second, but obviously this song should have been on How to Clean Everything. It's better than a lot of stuff on How to Clean Everything. Um, and it's unfortunate that it didn't make that record, but it's kind of a blessing in disguise that it didn't because of the Warzone lyric.
Yeah, I would love if they did a 2025 version of this song.
It would be really awesome. All
I
right,
They
let's
could do
talk.
a 2025 version of this song, release it on a 7-inch, have the proceeds of the 7-inch go to anti-racism charities. Guys, if you're listening, which you're absolutely not, toss it out there.
That would be amazing, dude. Just a jam space recording. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Put it on make it a Bandcamp digital single. Who
yeah.
cares? You don't have to press it on a record.
It's
But it
it's
would
the
be
time
fun,
for it right now. It's the absolute time to have this song redone.
dude. I told Sulin on that episode way back when that "Dead Fascist" would be such an awesome opening song for Propagandy's live sets right
Yeah,
now. Just come on,
100%.
do 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 do, and the crowd would go bananas. You know
Oh
what
yeah.
I mean? What an awesome way to. So anyway, I think that this song should come back. White, Proud, and Stupid, bring it back. But Chris did say on that Patreon episode about Mike Brownmeister that this song should have been on How to Clean Everything. He goes, "Hey, this should have been on How to Clean Everything, eh?" And I'm like, yeah, you think?" Um, so let's chat about these lyrics. He's a good boy. He loves his mama. He loves Jesus and his country too. He's a good
Oh,
boy, working class white male, loves violence, and his dumb girlfriend too.
I already want to throw up.
Dude, it's so good because you can just picture this caricature, right? It's very, very funny. He describes it's almost like the false politeness of white Southern society, where it's like this like sarcastic, oh, that's nice, darling. You know what I mean? Where it's like really a dig. And you just like feel like those like that like dagger go into your heart whenever somebody like gives you like a backhanded compliment in like Southern society. No one does it better than white Southerners, where the kindness is actually very, very judgy. Like I've seen critiques of Southern Christianity in that sort of love the sinner, hate the sin type of commentary, where it's like false, fake, subversive, manipulative, and abusive, but it can be reframed and gaslit into being about kindness and love. And so that line to me, this opening part, which is sung in the free fallen melody, is about that false politeness of white society. And that's just what it reminds me of.
Oh, it's very well done to like to start with this and then go into the next. I love it.
Yeah. So then he's got and that's enough to make me sick. And that is so funny. It's so
Love it.
funny. I love that line too. And then we get into the actual tune. Um, so the lyrics, I am white, proud, and stupid. I am much smarter than you, kid.
So rhyming stupid with you kid is hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great.
I love it.
And so, because you don't know what's right, you're black instead of white, and you got to be like me if you want to be free in my world. So, this last part, you got to be like me if you want to be free in my world. So, everybody right now in the United States knows that there is no bigger snowflakes in society than white American conservatives, who did all of that absolutely insane accusations, based on their opinions about the concept of wokeness and DEI and critical race theory and stuff like that for the last several years. Um, and now are just exhibiting so much ridiculous defensiveness. There is no bigger there's no bigger weakness right now in the United States than American white conservatives. They're so defensive and they just are very boring, in my opinion. But they want you to know how right they are and how correct they are. So this is like, to me, you got to be free. You got to be like me if you want to be free in my world. And the people looking through people's social media and stuff like that when doing border crossings and stuff like that, all of that to me is indicative of this. You got to be like me if you want to be free in my world.
It it's a you touched on something probably like 25 seconds ago, but if I never have to hear the word woke again for the rest of my life, I would be pretty happy.
Exactly. And all that is it's just this you got to be like me if you want to be free in my world. And anything that I don't like, I can just accuse of being woke or DEI or critical
It's
race theory, and I can just cast it off, regardless of how useful something like that might be.
like if I have a conversation with someone and the person on like that I'm having a conversation with says, I'm not into all this woke stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm done. We're
It makes me roll my eyes so hard I can basically see my own brain inside my head. Like that's how hard my eyes roll when somebody turns a conversation in that direction. I'm like, oh my God. All right,
I'm
see you
like
later.
I was like, can you even believe? I was like, I in no way claim to be any form of like actual intelligent, but when someone says that in a conversation, I'm like, man, I think I found someone less intelligent than me.
It's an immediate conversation stopper. And the thing is, like, that's what they want it to be. They want it to be a conversation stopper so that they can then present it as them having some kind of intelligence that is like the next level. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, look, I stopped you in your tracks. Like, that means I've tapped into something where they feel powerful because you have disengaged. So then they feel like they walk away having won. So they have this like, uh, you know, pardon the phrase here, but they have this trump card where they can pull that card out at any given moment, stop a conversation, then walk away feeling victorious and superior as if they have tapped into some kind of knowledge that the rest of us just aren't privy to yet, which is a massive strategy of white supremacist groups to draw in people with a new kind of knowledge that like the rest of the world just like can't grasp yet. Do you know what I mean?
It must be so peaceful to walk around the world with no morality or conscience. Just
I would
imagine
imagine
the
so.
peace that those people experience every day, not having to worry about all of the hardships that those people are putting on other people.
Yeah. Then we get this one little next verse here. I can't believe what you say. Do you really think that way? Every time you talk, you tear the human race limb from limb. I love that line because to me, the beauty of the human race, there's so much ugly about the human race, so much ugliness, so much pain, so much death and destruction and chaos and disorder among the human race. But something that is actually awesome about the human race is just how broad it actually is. How, you really can't find people that all see the world the exact same way. There's so much uniqueness across the various cultures of the world. There are beautiful things to find
It's
in
funny, we're going
in
over the
every culture.
lyrics.
Mhm.
Uh, they're going over the lyrics to the song. Like I obviously know the lyrics, but I'm like reading them, and just because of what we've been working on lately, I'm like, I just expect the lyrics to at some point say, "You're a Nazi dog."
Oh, funny. Oh, we should talk about that. We made a song. What's the Bandcamp les sandbaggers.bandcamp.com.
Yeah, yep, that's it.
Les Sandbaggers. Steve and I made a cover where we covered an obscure Toronto hardcore band from the early 80s called Swindled. And you can hear Steve ripping some double bass on drums and me doing some vocals with Steve backing me up. We made some music. LaySandbaggers.bandcamp.com.
Hey, you're a Nazi dog, dressed up so slick with an empty mind.
oddly enough, very relevant to this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Good song. Really good song. I had such a fun time singing that. I experimented a lot. I probably did about 15 takes of those vocals, just trying to dial in a little bit. Um, but good stuff. Swindled. Okay. So then we get this part that one of my favorite parts is this musical interlude, and then Chris comes in with a slightly different melody where he goes, Nazi skins and Aryans pollute our land. And I love that line. I love the way he sings it. I love the melody. It's so catchy and memorable. And then he goes into list a couple of bands that are filled with douchebags. But then he has the band Warzone. Unfortunately included in the lyrics. And if you go read the liner notes from where quantity is job number one, he explicitly says, or on Genius as well, it says that the first two bands listed were Nazi oi bands. And then it says Warzone wasn't a Nazi band, but at the time when Propaganda recorded this song, they weren't aware of that. And in the later liner notes, noted Warzone as, quote, not Nazis, sorry. So there is a mistake in the line in the lyrics that the band themselves acknowledged as being a little bit off base. So I just wanted to clarify on the episode that the band has apologized for the Warzone reference in the lyrics.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, like putting out an actual record accusing someone of being a Nazi and having it going out into print, and then realizing later on that they're not Nazis.
Yeah,
That's a very unfortunate thing to happen.
it is. And I do feel bad for the band Warzone, and I do feel bad for Propaganda that they did this, which is why I said earlier that it's probably a good thing that this song is not on How to Clean Everything, and that it's on an album that has essentially been scrubbed from streaming services. It's not available on Apple Music or Tidal or anything like that. So this song has,
So this song came out in, well, I guess, I mean, it was obviously written like earlier on, but it wasn't
yeah,
released until 1998, correct?
yeah. So,
So Rabies died in 1997
hmm,
from Rabies from Warzone.
yeah, yeah. So just to do a little bit of more digging on this issue myself, I went and started finding some info about Warzone. Oh my God, this cat is driving me crazy. My
So
little kitty cat.
Warzone are highly regarded as one of the um, more prominent and important New York hardcore bands from the 80s.
Hmm. So I found an interview with former Warzone bassist John Ullman from an online magazine called Clairvoyant, which has a bit more on this topic. Since the liner notes came to the defense of Warzone, I would like to add a comment as well. So the magazine asked, the skinhead thing was pretty huge in New York at the time. Did you identify as a skinhead back then? And Ullman, bassist of Warzone, says skinhead style was, in a way to identify the Lower East Side crew at this time in parts of America. And of course, in England, skinhead was the opposite of what we stood for. They were essentially just kids filled with intolerance, just fucked up in the head. What a sad, terrible waste of human life, walking and talking, all filled with hate, truly. I like the way David Lynch puts it. He says anger is like wearing a rubber clown mask. When you finally remove the mask, you realize how all that anger was suffocating you, and you're free, and you won't know that freedom until you get there. Actually, destroy the anger from your thoughts. The New York hardcore kids like Rabies and Ray Capo, John Bloodclot, and lots of kids were open minded and skinhead.
I mean, John Bloodclot, not so much anymore, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. But not a Nazi, right? So then he
Almost.
says,
Almost.
I don't know enough. I don't know enough about that. But then he says the skinhead scene became a mixed bag of folks. The people who were down with Warzone were not the racists. There were a couple of idiotic skins who had me on a list of people who were Jewish, but they concluded I was okay because I was adopted, and in fact, they concluded had Aryan features. I told the person who told me this junk that if they want to come to my place, I will kick their racist asses. What a joke. A list of Jewish people. Apparently, some sick intentions swirling around in their minds, even being considered as an offense. Anyway, for the Warzone skins in our world, this was not something out of the movie Romper Stomper. This was a New York vibe, and I'm a New York Jew, and Jay was half Jewish, and Ray and our friends were more open-minded, open and cosmopolitan, meaning we mixed with the rich folks and chilled at their Soho lofts, and were with the poor right there for them, sometimes helping out or protecting them. We also listened to lots of reggae music and smoked big ganja spliffs like the original non-racist English skins. Around 88, we knew we must draw the line because their racist label was being pinned on us for being skinhead. In any event, listening to reggae and being in New York, where we have a mosaic of cultures, set New York apart from other scenes developing in other states, where the hardcore kids were more hillbilly-esque. At bottom, New York skins were an incarnation of skinhead, in my view. So, good conversation from the bassist of Warzone in that magazine. And you can find that, again, like I said, at a publication called Clairvoyant, but it's CLRVYNT.com. So I thought that that was a useful thing to contribute to clarify some of the views of Warzone. One member from Warzone, their bassist, John Ullman.
And if anyone out there, not that anyone does, but if anyone out there has a copy of that Toronto hardcore book, there is a good section on Nazi skins and non-racist skins in that book.
Awesome. Yeah. And Chris also goes into some stuff he found on his podcast for the episode that he made on The Only Good Fascist is a Very Dead Fascist, where he talks a little bit more about his exposure to stuff like that and some of his thinking about Nazi bands and white power bands in general. But yeah, there is a little bit more on the inside of the liner notes for Quantity. Directly says track 18 recorded in 1991, soon to be a major motion picture starring Morgan Freeman. Apologies to Warzone for including them alongside two bands that will not be named. Couldn't think of any other two-syllable Nazi bands at the time of writing, I guess, besides Meat Rack. So, which is also a joke because Meat Rack was a local Winnipeg band. So anyway, there's a little bit of detail about some of the stuff from this record in regard to what Chris was talking about in the song.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for Warzone.
I do too. Yeah, because this song is so good too. It's such a good song, and it's just such an unfortunate inclusion. But Propagandy apologized, but in the liner notes, but it's still on the record. You know what I mean? Ideally, a different version would have been recorded. Just re-record it and find a different band. You know,
There's lots of them.
There's
Kid
plenty.
Rock. Kid Rock is two syllables.
Well, and then there's that, you know, that Norwegian black metal solo project from that one guy who killed that other guy that he could put on there. I mean, easy, right? It's easy to find it some. But I found another essay that I would really recommend people go find. It's called The Origins of White Power Music, the Co-opting of Punk and Oi by a Parasitical Social Movement. I loved that.
Yeah.
Parasitical social movement, right? Think about what a parasite is. It's something that uses a pre-existing organism as a host and destroys it, co-ops its power, and goes in a new direction. A cancer, if you will, right? The author of this paper is James Windle and Clara Schenk. It's open access. It's an academic paper, very readable, very good. And they talk about the origins of white power music emerging from first wave punk at roughly the same time as Oi. And this paper is interesting because it refers to WPM as parasitical, exploits a host's resources to reproduce and spread to others, which makes total sense when you think about how kids think they're often just going to a punk show in the 80s only to be exposed to Nazis in the scene or on stage. Winnipeg, Toronto, other scenes seem to have experienced that exact parasitical nature. And shout out to Toronto's bunch of fucking goofs who were extremely aggressive about extracting that from the Toronto scene.
Great band name. Great
Yeah,
band name.
seriously cool. And then we have like the definition from this paper of white power is a broad reactionary mobilization of people who see themselves as a minority at risk of extinction in multicultural Western society. Common traits are anti-Semitism, Aryan nationalism, a white homeland, anti-LGBTQ, anti-immigrant, anti-feminist, anti-liberal democracy. So WPM spurs mostly from the early 80s in the UK, which is a period of massive unemployment, social industrial unrest spurred by neoliberal reforms. A massively influential group was in the UK was the National Front, who was doing recruitment drives with a youth magazine that modeled itself after Rock Against Racism's mobilization of young people. And they organized the Rock Against Communism in 1979. But the National Front promoted like that most famous white power band, who is the founding father of white power music, founded record labels, and it spread to the U.S. in '95. The first white power band in the U.S. popped up around '85. So there's a massive story. You can find all kinds of examples. This paper goes on to discuss something called the South Hall riots in 1981. Where there was like a group of Sikh South Asian community in the UK who had a massive confrontation with some Oi showgoers. Great paper, talks a ton about all that kind of stuff. But you know, it was just a really interesting essay that I think that if anybody who wants to dive into this more can find. And like I said, that paper is called The Origins of White Power Music, The Co-opting of Punk and Oi by a Parasitical Social Movement. Really enjoyed it.
So it's interesting when how he refers to it, like you said, as the parasitical social movement, because
Hmm.
I'm reading a book right now that I believe you read recently that talks about the plasticity of the brain,
Hmm.
and um how the use of technology and the internet rewires your brain
Are you talking about
essentially.
Nicholas Carr?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you reading Super Bloom or are you reading the other one? Dang, what's the other one called?
The what the internet did to your brain.
Oh yeah, that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That one. And I just
The
think of like,
Shallows. The
yeah,
Shallows
the
is what it's
shallows.
called. Yeah.
So anyways, I think about the connection um between how that happens and how this is mentioned, like this parasitic social movement, and how they're both essentially doing the same thing but just in different ways, and and the steps that someone has to take to dewire their brain
Hmm.
from like the legitimate changes that their brain is experiencing during this, because we don't even like, and the way, obviously there's some things in the book I don't agree with, but the way that your brain changes before you even realize that your entire brain has changed and you have no control over essentially what is happening in your brain is just so terrifying.
Yeah.
and and like, people that get wrapped up in this parasitic um culture, or parasitic social movement, like they don't like their entry point to being fully in it is a blur. Like you
Yeah.
don't even realize it's happening until it's over.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and um that's why I think that it's really important to refer back to what I said earlier about Pete Semi's work, where he talks about how people can get out of white supremacist worldviews and opinion holding. And I realize that the song is called White, Proud, and Stupid, and stupidity is not really known for its reflectiveness. But the song title is just very funny because people who are actively holding white supremacist views are actively being stupid, but it does not mean that they must remain stupid forever, which is why people who do the work of psychologically deprogramming people who are involved in white supremacist groups is actually pretty important work. Um, so anyway, I like that you talked about the plasticity of the brain and how people get sucked up into things and they don't even realize what's happening until they're too deeply immersed, and then it takes a deprogramming process. It's hard stuff, man. It's psychologically difficult stuff. And obviously you and I are not experts, and here we are going on and on about this.
We're just pretending to be. We just play experts on TV.
We're totally unqualified to be talking about this. And yet, as somebody who cares about the world, and this song gives me a lot to think about, I enjoy thinking about it. But that article I talked about, the origins of white power music, it does label a couple of oi bands in the UK who actively were fighting against the right wing slant in the UK scene. So some ones that it specifically mentioned were the Cockney Rejects and Cockspur, two bands that got explicitly listed within that article as doing a little bit of fighting against that kind of stuff. And I know that you're a big Bouncing Souls fan, but the first time I ever really listened to Cockspur was when the Bouncing Souls covered them for "We're Coming Back, We're Coming Back, We're Coming Back to You."
Oh yeah.
Good tune. So anyway, there's a huge history of Nazi imagery in bands that people love too. Joy Division used Nazi imagery. The Sex Pistols sang a song called Belson Was a Gas. Susie and the Banshees sang about Jews in the song Love in a Void. Adam and the Ants sang about concentration camps in Deutscher Girl. Sid Vicious walked around in swastika shirts. All of those things are stupid to me. It is not interesting, edgy, or cool. It's boring. It's lame. It's complete dweebs. It's dweeb behavior in all these songs. So there's a lot of bands that are well beloved by, the punk scene in general to this day that have dabbled in that kind of bullshit. And so it's just, I'm just pointing out some of the things that I found while digging into this, Then Chris brings us back. I will never be white, proud, and stupid. I am no smarter than you, kid, and we both know what's right. It's never black or white. You don't have to be like me. You're always free in my world. So I enjoy the way that the song has like these like bookends, where it's switching the opinion to from the beginning of the song to the end of the song, to reframe the nuance in the world. And 1991. This is a really nice message that I enjoyed from the song. So this is a great tune. Love it. The only shitty thing is that Warzone part, but it is what it is at this point, and I feel like we've done our best to clarify that situation.
Yeah, overall, I mean, absolute banger. Wish there was a modern version of it, but if there was a modern version of it, I would appeal to Chris to sing it the same way he sang this one.
Yeah, and he would cringe. When he sees this episode pop up in his podcast app, if he actually follows us, which that's questionable at this point. We're very painful. We are the punishers of their discography. He's probably like, oh boy, oh no. But Chris's comments about these kinds of tunes are awesome on his Patreon. Like, I cannot recommend people go back and listen to his storytelling for his Dead Fascist episode. So good. His Mike Braumeister episode, very good. But yeah, the thing that really pisses me off about racism and segregation is that if earlier generations of white people would have just been able to get over themselves, then we would all be so much better off to this day. It would be no big deal if neighborhoods were entirely integrated and everybody on a street didn't look exactly like each other. And I think about all the pain and suffering in the society that has come up from past generations of white people just being boring. So yeah, I love that this song talks about the world as it is and gives us hope for what we want to see in the world in the future. So that's my thoughts on White, Proud, and Stupid. Steve, what a nice time.
If you're, I know we haven't done it yet for this one, but rate it. Give me your rating.
Oh man, dude, I like this song so much. I love the Tom Petty intro. I love the way it kicks in. I love how fast it is. Just makes me remember the first time I ever heard this song and I'm gonna give this one like a 3. It's a little bit better than Dead Middle in the pack. It's unfortunate about the Warzone lyric. But message is awesome. Love the Tom Petty homage. I'm gonna give it a 3.
I'm gonna give it a 3 as well. I really like this song.
Nice. Well, Steve, thank you so much for making another episode with me about White, Proud, and Stupid from Where Quantity is Job One. We have basically finished this. Dang it. We have LaPlante/Smith song.
Can't
Maybe
wait.
we'll be back for another very
So-
serious episode. I love that there's so many joke songs, like some
Oh, yeah.
jokey songs, because then we can just drive this podcast life on forever.
And
There's
if
all
anyone
these
is still listening, ignore all the stuff we said at the beginning of the episode about finishing off this record because it does not apply. But we're leaving it in there. Just ignore it.
LaPlante/Smith song, episode 8000. Anyway, you can find us an email at propagandapod@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Singing about. I will never be white, proud, and stupid. I am no smarter than you get, and we both know what's right. It's never black or white. You don't have to be like me, you're always free. In my world, in our world, yo, the first generation without racial segregation. Imagine now we're gonna probably face that turn. Entertain.
He's a good boy, loves his mama, loves Jesus and his country too. He's a good boy, working class white male, loves violence and his dumb girlfriend too. And that's enough to make me, that's enough to make me sick. I am white, proud, and stupid. I am much smarter than you. kid, 'cause you don't know what's right. 'Cause you're black instead of white, and you gotta be like me if you wanna be free. My world, I can't believe what you say. Do you really think that way? Every time you talk, you tear the human race limb from limb.